Those grades were too high. Everyone said the professor is giving her the questions. But the truth was much more painful. Professor Doctor. Ethan Mitchell was simply in love, and he would pay a very heavy price for this love. The autumn morning at Columbia University was cold. The leaves had turned golden yellow, and the old stone buildings on campus stood like ghostly silhouettes in the misty air. Dr. Ethan Mitchell, 32 years old, the youngest professor in the English Literature department, was walking briskly toward Havemeyer Hall. Steam rose from the coffee in his hand, and tiny droplets appeared on his glasses. Ethan felt different this morning, because the new semester was beginning, and his Modern American Literature course was one of Columbia's most popular electives. When he entered the classroom, the students had already taken their seats, but his eyes caught on the female student sitting in the front row, Isabella Rodriguez. 22 years old, of Puerto Rican descent, with dark brown eyes, wavy black hair, and the smile that would change Ethan's world at that moment. She smiled, and Ethan's heart stopped. "Good morning," Ethan said, his voice coming out unusually tense. "Welcome to Modern American Literature. I'm Dr. Mitchell." As Isabella opened her notebook, Ethan couldn't help but notice her graceful movements. While other students were playing with their phones or looking half asleep, Isabella was carefully taking notes of every word. The first week went normally. Ethan taught the class. Students listened. But Isabella's presence disturbed him. The girl stayed after every class to ask questions, intelligent questions, deeply thoughtful questions. "Dr. Mitchell," Isabella said one day after the class had emptied, "was the main character in Kerouac's On the Road truly free, or had he created his own prison?" Ethan was surprised. Even his graduate students didn't ask this question. "That's a profound question, Miss Rodriguez," he said. "What do you think?" Isabella fixed her eyes on him. "I think Dean Moriarty wasn't free. He was constantly running, but actually running from himself. Freedom is something you can find, even where you stand." At that moment, Ethan understood. This girl was extraordinary. Weeks passed. Isabella's grades were perfect. Every assignment, every class participation, every exam, a plus. Other students began to notice. "How does Isabella get such high grades?" whispered Madison, the class's former best student. "Maybe the professor is giving her the questions." "Or she's getting extra credit some other way," added Jake with a jealous tone. Isabella ignored these rumors, but was affected by them. Her friends began to distance themselves from her. She started sitting alone in the cafeteria. One day, after class, Ethan approached her. "Miss Rodriguez, are you all right? You seem distant lately." Isabella looked up. There were tears in her eyes. "Dr. Mitchell, everyone thinks the reason my grades are high is because of you." Ethan's heart tightened. "And what do you think?" "I think you're a fair professor, and that I have different feelings for you." These words hung in the air. Ethan was shocked, because he felt the same way. "Isabella," he began. "I know, it's forbidden," Isabella said. "You're a professor, I'm a student, but feelings don't follow rules, do they?" That evening, when Ethan returned home, his mind was confused. He sat alone in his small apartment in the Upper West Side. He was 32, still unmarried. He had focused on his career. But Isabella... A week later, Isabella came during office hours. This time, they didn't talk about literature. They talked about life. "I was born in Puerto Rico," Isabella said, "but my family moved to New York when I was 5. My father is a construction worker. My mother is a cleaner. I'm the first person in my family to go to university." Ethan admired her determination. "What's your major?" "English literature minor." No, Isabella said with a smile. Economics major. Literature just feeds my soul. But I need to make money in the real world. This honesty impressed Ethan. While most students took idealistic approaches, Isabella was realistic. Months passed. Nothing was happening officially, but both felt it. Ethan was reading Isabella's assignments more carefully, giving her more feedback. Isabella also continued staying after every class. One evening, they met late on campus. They were both coming out of Butler Library. "Dr. Mitchell," Isabella said, "would you like to have coffee? I mean, as friends?" Ethan hesitated. He knew that if he crossed this line, there would be no going back. "Sure," he said, "but let's keep it professional." But the coffee shop conversation was anything but professional. Isabella told him about her family, her dreams, her fears. Ethan also opened up about his doctoral years at Oxford, his decision to come to America, his loneliness. "You're very successful," Isabella said, Columbia's youngest professor. "Success sometimes means loneliness," Ethan said. "Books, articles, but no real human relationships." Isabella looked at him. "Maybe you just haven't found the right person." That night, both went home with racing hearts. As Christmas vacation approached, Ethan gathered his courage. "Isabella, my family is coming from Connecticut for Thanksgiving. Would you like to meet them?" Isabella was surprised. "But we're not officially anything." "I know," Ethan said, "but I want my family to meet you." On Thanksgiving Day, the dinner at Ethan's Upper West Side apartment was impressive. Ethan's mother, Margaret Mitchell, was a gracious English lady, and his father, James Mitchell, was a retired Cambridge professor. When Isabella arrived, his family immediately loved her. "Isabella, your Spanish accent is charming," Margaret said, "and Ethan told us you're studying economics." "Yes, Mrs. Mitchell. Financial security is important for my family." James Mitchell discussed economics and literature with her. Isabella's intelligence and maturity impressed them. After dinner, Ethan and Isabella talked on the balcony. "Your family is very warm," Isabella said. "They loved you," Ethan said. "And honestly, so do I." With these words, Isabella approached him. They had their first kiss. But this kiss wasn't just physical. It formed an emotional bond. After that night, their relationship continued secretly. They kept their distance on campus, but were together on weekends. Walks in Central Park, small restaurants, art galleries. Isabella's grades were still high, but this time Ethan was really helping her. He was checking her assignments in more detail, giving her exam questions for practice. "This isn't fair," Isabella would sometimes say. "Love isn't about fairness," Ethan would say. "I want to help you." Spring semester came. The rumors continued to increase. Isabella's social circle had shrunk, but she was happy when she was with Ethan. One day, Isabella gave him her big news. "I got an internship offer from Goldman Sachs, New York office." Ethan was happy. "That's wonderful. It means we'll stay here after you graduate." Isabella smiled, but there was something in her eyes, a secret, an uncertainty. May arrived. Graduation was approaching. Isabella's grades were perfect. She would graduate magna cum laude. "I'm proud of you," Ethan said one evening. "After you start working at Goldman, we can officially announce our relationship. We won't be professor-student anymore." Isabella nodded, but that strange expression was still in her eyes. A week before the graduation ceremony, Isabella met with Ethan, but this time she was different. Cold, distant. "Ethan, we need to talk," she said. "What's wrong?" Isabella took a breath. "I'm going back to Puerto Rico." Ethan was shocked. "What?" "But Goldman Sachs and our relationship." "I turned down Goldman," Isabella said. "My family wants me back, and and I'm not ready for this relationship." "I don't understand," Ethan said, his voice trembling. "Didn't you say I love you last week?" Isabella looked away. "Sometimes love isn't enough, Ethan." "Isabella, what's happening?" Something changed. "What happened?" Isabella stood up. "Maybe I was never ready. Maybe I was only with you for my grades." These words hit Ethan. "What did you just say?" "You helped me with assignments, gave me exam questions. Maybe I unconsciously wanted these things." Ethan looked in horror. "Did you use me?" Isabella left in tears. At the graduation ceremony, Ethan looked for Isabella, but couldn't find her. Instead, he found a small note on his desk. "Ethan, I'm sorry. Maybe I never deserved your love. Thank you for everything. I..." Isabella left New York that day. Ethan called her, sent messages. He never got a response. Months, years passed. Ethan never married. Every new semester, every new group of students. But none of them was Isabella. One day, 5 years later, Ethan found Isabella's LinkedIn profile. She was working at a bank in Puerto Rico. She was married, had a child. Then he understood. Isabella had really used him. But maybe she had also deceived herself in the process. Ethan looked at those grades. Every A+, every perfect score. They were all products of calculation, not love. But the most painful part was this. Ethan still loved her. Because sometimes love is unfair. Sometimes you can't forget, even when you've been used. And Dr. Ethan Mitchell, in those cold classrooms at Columbia, was still looking for her smile. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had become what every academic warns against, a professor who compromised his integrity for personal feelings. Every semester, he looked at his new students and wondered if any of them saw him as Isabella had. Not as a person to love, but as a tool to use. He changed his grading policies after that. Everything became more transparent, more documented. He never stayed late with students anymore, never offered extra help that others couldn't access. He had learned the hard way that kindness could be weaponized, that love could be a strategy. But late at night, in his apartment overlooking the Hudson River, Ethan would sometimes pull out that final note Isabella had left. The handwriting he had once found beautiful now looked calculated, practiced. Had every "I love you" been rehearsed? Had every tear been performed? The worst part wasn't that she had used him. The worst part was that he had let her. He had seen the signs, the way she calculated every interaction, the way she always steered conversations back to academics, the way she had kept him at arm's length from her real life until it served her purposes. But love, he had learned, makes you willfully blind. It makes you complicit in your own deception. Years later, when colleagues asked why he never married, Ethan would give vague answers about being too focused on his career. But the truth was simpler and more devastating. Isabella had taught him that his love could be bought, sold, and discarded when it was no longer useful. And that lesson, unlike the literature he taught, had no redemptive ending, just the hollow echo of footsteps in empty hallways and the ghost of a smile that had cost him everything he thought he knew about himself. In the end, Isabella Rodriguez had been his most effective teacher. She had shown him that sometimes the price of forbidden love isn't social scandal or professional ruin. Sometimes it's simply learning that you never really knew what love was at all.